right, so we have a director's take in here, I think from Aaron. So we'll see here. It says, director's take, loud and clear. Hi, everyone. I can't believe Season 19 midseason is already around the corner and heading your way next week. So there's confirmation. Next week is the midseason patch. And it says, you'll get to see Junkrat's ultra cool Cyberfuel mythic skin. So there's the Junkrat mythic you've been looking for. Brush up on your lore with a narrative viewer, narration, all of that. This is where you're starting to see more of the lore drop, and might even learn more about a certain gladiator lurking in the shadows. Again, referencing the new hero that will be out soon. It's an exciting time to be a part of Overwatch for you and us. Tons of things are being updated, improved, or redesigned at tracer level speed. Though many of these changes have worked out well for everyone, we know some of them haven't been as successful as we intended them to be, which is, it's always good to look at the things you can improve on, look at the things that you can keep, or don't work. Even though we're staring, the proverbial ship, your feedback about everything from game modes to menu screens helps guide us towards a brighter destination. We thought this might be a good time to tell you more about how we shift our sails in response to your feedback and how we use it to ensure the community has a voice in our decision-making progress. So basically saying that the feedback does lead to some things. Let's see. We hear you. We feel blessed that the Overwatch community is full of great ideas. Thank you. Hot takes, couldn't be me. And spicy opinions. Nope, everything is the great idea part. Thank you so much for including me in that one. Obviously, obviously we're always in, all of us are in those three categories at some point. Even when we may not totally agree, the passion tells us that you're also committed to making a great game. Yeah, you're gonna love that passion, right, chat? That's all about. This might surprise you, but we see and consider almost all of your feedback and comments from social media posts and live stream chats to creations on TikTok, YouTube, and beyond. You heard that right, chat. All your copy pastas are getting sent to Blizzard. If our developers don't catch a Reddit thread or deep dive on their own, the community team gathers public data on sentiment and delivers it to the necessary parties on Team 4. Example would be best of 5, best of 7, things like that, those type of things. Some feedback we can't do much about, giving Zenyatta a billion HP or letting Torb climb walls doesn't exactly work with our vision for the game. Well, Zenyatta billion HP I get, but what's wrong with Torb climbing walls, okay? Listen, if anybody can come up with an excuse to climb a wall, it is Torb. If you want to talk about the vision, Torb creates a bunch of cool gadgets. Why can't Torb climb walls? I'm just saying, you say it's on a part of the vision, but Torb is known to make really cool things. If there's anybody who can do it, it's Torb. I'm just saying, okay? But we want you to know, even if you really want it, but we want you to know that we hear you loud and clear and that we deeply consider feedback we can use when developing future seasons or updating game modes. One of our long-term goals is to build your confidence in the direction Overwatch is headed. That's a good goal. Open communication and transparency go a long way, but we hope some of that confidence comes from our team's willingness to admit and correct changes that didn't work out as effectively as we anticipated. And honestly, I think that's a good direction to go a lot of the time nowadays, of not try to force okay, this is what we think is going to be. We think you're going to like this, and if you don't like it, well, too bad. Now it's okay, we thought this would be really cool. It didn't resonate as well. Let's find something that works for all of us. So it's a better philosophy before. I remember back in the Overwatch 1 days where once a balance change happened, they're no, we think that's correct. We're keeping it as is. Good luck. So stadiums, back to 7. Season 9 launched with a big change to stadium ranked matches. Would now be a best of 5 series instead of a best of 7 series. Our goal was to speed up the stadium ranked experience so you'd get the fun more quickly. We also felt this was a way to mitigate the chance you'd be locked into long or unsatisfying matches. When we add a new feature or make a big change, sometimes initial community feedback skews negative, but evens out as time goes on and players get acclimated. So some changes you'll get into the game, there's a lot of pushback, and then ends up being really good. I can think of one thing that had pushback even before it released. Remember health regen? I could not imagine Overwatch without health regen nowadays. I couldn't imagine it. It's so much better with that 6 second. Well, I like it at 5 seconds, but they have it at 6 seconds. I actually like it. I thought it was a great change. Honestly, it's been awesome for Overwatch. I can't think. I couldn't imagine the game without it because it just feels like it kind of it's a cool part about that. So, but anyway, they say we noticed this didn't happen when it came to Stadium. ranked going to best of 5. We saw continued critical feedback for multiple weeks, which made us take a serious look at our options. Based on the content of the feedback, that many of you missed the strategic joy of longer games, countering your opponent's builds, and the possibility of glorious comebacks, runs in a close series, as well as internal opinions and gut checks from the team, we ultimately decided to revert the change to Stadium ranked last week. So I think they're kind of showing you the process of why they went there from BO5 to BO7, all of that. It's an interesting one because talking about how like over time you can acclimate to it. It's funny with me when they first made it best of 5, right? I was like, honestly, I'm not a fan of this right now. I'm like, I missed this whole thing. Then they made an update where you got Stadium cash much quicker, and I'm like, okay, I see the vision. I still like best of 7, but it's growing on me. Like, I like it. But like that wasn't going to be the case for everybody. And, you know, I don't mind those type of games with that one. And I think the way to look at it is that like having a best of 5 quick play to enjoy it that way and a best of 7 ranked probably would be their best combo there. But at the same time, it's so hard to say, right? It's so hard to say, but you know what I mean? So like it's one of those things where that's kind of where it was. But anyway, they say critical feedback doesn't always mean we'll hit undo and head back to the status quo. But it does make us take a second look at how we've implemented a change and why it isn't hitting how we intended. In this case, we reassess the situation and ultimately decide to go through with a reversion. Oh, that was just a link to Aaron's tweet. Stadium is all about experimentation and testing new ways to play and enjoy Overwatch. That said, we'll be taking more time with feature releases for Stadium in the future. 2 big reversions, mirror drafts in this change in such a short period tells us we need to let new ideas cook longer internally before they head to your queues. We're aiming to provide higher quality features instead of quick fire updates for Stadium, so stay tuned for more. And it's funny, we were just talking about this a few days ago. I think that's the way to go with Stadium. It felt like it was so jarring going back and forth with all these things like when they released Stadium, you could tell right away that you did not want to have those draft system up yet. It was not the time because there wasn't enough heroes. What do? They released drafts. People complain about it because it wasn't the right time. They reverted. Best of 5, again, that one's a whole different story. I think that one will have a bit more of a polarized opinion back and forth on it. But like, again, they need to, like, the things they should do is work on the features, right? Get these features going, okay? Right? Take time on the features and then update the builds in the meantime, right? Take some time to get the... No, not... When they say, like, you said not sure about taking more time, let us try new stuff in Stadium. New builds and stuff in Stadium, I think, is the important part, right? Let's get Cassidy to have multiple build paths. Let's get every hero they have there to have multiple build paths, right? Let's let those features they're working on get to the point where they're very happy and they think the community sentiment will be good. And in the meantime, work on some extra builds and things like that, right? That's what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about like not adding things in there, but you need to find more ways, more items, more things like that can really make it feel fresh. Like those things you can work on while you get those features ready. Yep. Anyway, I hope that's making sense. Anyway, okay, next up. Good reception. Most of this blog has been about how we use critical feedback, but your positive feedback and big ideas are also utilized in the Team 4 offices. Next week, we'll be introducing the first balance patch specifically made for our... Wait a second. We'll be introducing our first balance patch specifically made for our 6v6 game modes. I guess it's a good time I started playing it. Holy crap, wait a second. I don't even know what they're going to balance because I'm so new to it. So 6v6 is getting a balance patch next week. Though 5v5 reigns supreme as far as playtime is concerned, 6v6 has a consistent, passionate population that often tells us how much they love the mode. On any given day, roughly 20% of online players run through at least one game of 6v6, which again, let's say, we don't know the player numbers, but let's say over a month they have 20 million players, you know, that's still what? 4 million players playing the game, right? I'm just making up a number there, but I'm saying like, or trying it out. That's a lot of people, right? That is still a lot of people, right? To take a game that way. So, again, I'm just coming up with a random number there. I don't know their actual monthly player numbers, but I'm just giving you like the math on that one, the 20%. So feedback about how much you've enjoyed this mode, let us know that it needed some attention, so keep it coming. Telling us what you're loving lately helps our team double down and improve those modes. Your feedback can lead to great changes for everyone, from our most competitive population to those of you who enjoy the more joyful, goofy parts of Overwatch. We can't spoil all the surprises for Season 20, but we'll be introducing a new feature for the highest skilled players on the leaderboard, directly inspired by our conversations with them. Huh? I know this is niche, but a leaderboard update? Hey, wait a second. I hope it ends up being something good and not like just a Band-Aid fix, because they've done so many Band-Aid fixes that just don't solve the problem. So I hope this is like something legitimate. But this is cool. We can't spoil. Okay, another stadium map will also be headed your way in Season 20, set in a locale we haven't used for other maps. But it should look very familiar if you've been keeping up with recent lore drops. Thanks for reading. That's kind of cool. I'm looking for a new map. Thanks for reading. Keep sending feedback our way, and we'll keep listening. As always, let's make a great game together. So there we go. Honestly, not that bad. That was awesome. I'm excited. Midseason sounds like it's going to be pretty cool in Season 20. I don't know what that means about leaderboards, but I'm in. So good take. Good director's take here. Excited to see where they go. So there you go. Heck yeah.